So hello everybody. So my name is Morgane Richomme. I'm a NAV architect in Orange, working in OpenNAV, and also the community project manager of the Emerginov project. So today I will speak about Emerginov, an OW2 project, and it's an African adventure. So I will explain, recall some facts about Emerginov, the different hackathons we made in Africa, and why we moved to a cloud solution. So just as an introduction, I'd say that Africa is now considered as a market that could be very interesting, including for cloud computing. So even if in Africa the infrastructure remains weak, we have very good assets. They skip, for example, directly to mobile, and now there are already opportunities to jump into cloud computing for several reasons, as it was mentioned in November 2013. So, is it a new opportunity for Africa? Assuming that there are still some problems. For example, the traditional internet infrastructure is very weak. There are still lots of problems regarding electricity, and the electricity grids are really unreliable in many areas, including in the main cities. But there are an emergence of active dev and business communities. Lots of hacking communities and open source communities have been created in the main cities in Africa. And they have great connected urban youth and skilled people. So the students, they are very aware of open source. What is open source? So for us, it was, as Orange is present in different countries in Africa, it was considered as an opportunity to study how we could contribute to offer facilities to developers to enter and to use our network, our telecom network in Africa. But we needed not only cloud, but a PaaS, platform as a service, and what I call a telco web PaaS. So providing a bridge between the web developers and the local population for telecommunication services. So why we need this telco web PaaS? Because mobile is everywhere. So people, they are all 1, 2 mobiles, 3 or 4 SIM cards. So even in remote area, you can be sure that a GSM will be available. Then that's probably the most efficient and effective network all over Africa. So mobile is everywhere. The GSM network is relatively reliable. That's probably the most reliable network. It's even more reliable than power supply or water supply. Data is coming, so for the moment they still have not data everywhere, of course, especially in rural area, but data is coming, and in the main city you can find 3G, and it will arrive, and the people are very already used for the new services using data. But there are still also problems, and that's why we need a telco web PaaS, and not only a classical or a standard PaaS. We need a telco offering vocal possibilities, because the overall low literacy rate is low. So it's, even data is coming, we still have to address part of population only with vocal technology, and sometimes with vocal technology using local languages. So for example, if you go to Senegal, if you want to have service for taximan, it would be interesting to have something in Wolof for them. In Mali, it will be in Bambara. There are lots of vernacular languages in Africa, and our PaaS should include this vocal consideration, and we should also take into account the local languages. So that's really specific to Africa. But as I mentioned, there are lots of qualified web developers. So people are able to develop very beautiful applications on the smartphones. Unfortunately, lots of people cannot use them, and even if they develop and put them on a store, on an app store, they are not sure to be able to get money, because most of the people are not able to purchase apps just because they don't have credit card for that, and that's not the way it's done. So at the moment, the big IT actors, they are organizing hackathons, but it's always, the topic is always they have to develop apps on mobile, but at the end, these apps do not target the population, or a very small part of the population. So that's what also telco webs that will allow any apps to have other channels of data that will can be addressed also. SMS or GSM vocal services can be interesting. So that's why we developed this project called Emerginov. So it's a project that has been developed for 3 years now. It has been developed by Orange Labs. It has been released under free software license in 2012, and it has been incubated in OW2. So it's an open PHP PaaS for co-innovation in Africa. And it has been designed by Orange Lab, as I mentioned. So, but what it is, some details on the solution. It's a smart integration of open source mature components. So it's only open source, it's fully open source. It's an all-in-one solution, bridging web on telco world. So thanks to this platform, we'll be able to allow web developers to use telecom networks as we are as OTT on our own network in Africa. It's also a toolbox allowing local innovation for by local developer. One of our assumptions was we are not based in Africa, so we don't know really the needs of the developer there. But we can provide a toolbox to do that, and we can really ease the developer work by providing these assets. And as it's open source, they basically they were already used to this kind of solutions. So what they didn't have, it was a connection with the telecommunication network. So already mentioned, we also made a focus on vocal application and local in local languages such as Wolof and Bambara. So some very basic modules for vocal recognition have been designed. And that's very simple, but just saying 1, 2, 3 in these different languages allow a very basic IVR solutions, and it was quite appreciated by local people. So it's a PHP PaaS, matching African needs, collecting the African needs, the African students or startup, and it's fully in PHP. It was decided beginning because PHP was very well known and very easy to use. So the solution will also provide APIs in order to allow developers to develop vocal services only using PHP. So they don't have to learn C protocols or telecommunication protocols. They don't have to deal with installation of gateways or study telecommunication protocols. So that's quite easy. Just one simple web language, and they can do everything in the solution. So the main component of the solution for the web part, it's very traditional with PHP. So we have Linux, Apache, MySQL, and Tomcat. We use, for the repository part, I will detail Subversion. So the project started a long time ago, so there was discussion about moving to Git or not. So at the moment, the first decision was Subversion, so it's still. For the telco part, we use kernel for the gateway, OpenSIP as a SIP proxy, and Asterisk was used as gateway and as a media server. And all these components are installed in a virtualized infrastructure based, so it's, at the beginning it was on Xen, simply on Xen with different virtual machines. And we will see in the last sections that we make some change in order to be able to automate the installation and to be able to get OpenStack images, so we'll see. But now the solution is based on Ubuntu and is the installation fully automated by Puppet. And the overall architecture, so there is 2 parts, I would say. One part is dedicated to code repository. So it's also forged. The people are able to commit their code. The code is uploaded on the platform, and there are scripts with web pages. And thanks to these scripts, you're able to deploy directly into an execution environment that is available on the web. So on this execution environment, there are 2 parts. One is a core platform, so providing a media server, web server, database, and also an API store. It was important to secure the access to the API. So API for SMS, TTS, and other locations and things like that. And we have also gateways, so that very basic PC running on Debian with connections with the telecommunication network. So with the SMSC for SMS and with a T2 or anyone for vocal calls. So it was able to have several gateways on the same core platform. For example, we've got one in Mali, one in Senegal, one in Madagascar, one in Ivory Coast, and they were all connected to one single core platform. So Emerginov was an infrastructure. It was also a community. So first of all, OW2, a technical community. That's where we are hosted, and that's where our code is located. Emerginov, so it was organized. It's an African relay. We have trained. So during different sessions, we train local people in order to be able to evangelize on Emerginov, how to use it, and to organize local hackathons. As we are not present in Africa, the idea was to let people do the job at the end. So for example, in our affiliate in Senegal, our colleagues organized, I think, 8 or 10 hackathons in the different cities in Senegal. InnovAfrica is it's a community, but it's a yearly event in West Africa, connecting all the innovators of West Africa. So this year it takes place in Togo. Last year it was in Ivory Coast, and the year before it was in Senegal. And it's very interesting because in InnovAfrica there are people coming with from different fields. So people from the energy, from health domains, and during 1 week there are some exchange. And last week and the week before, in 2012, we organized workshops, and we were in charge of the training on mobile development. So usually for the API, for the device part, so the development on the mobile, it was done by the teacher of the university where the conference was hosted. And for the backend, it was us because we had this connection with our local affiliates, so Orange Ivory Coast or Orange Senegal, Sonatel. And we were able to provide 30 routable numbers and capabilities in terms of SMS. And then it was possible in 1 week to develop several projects with the different communities. So the first year, for example, there was a group that developed a system for to declare, I think, birth mortality, because they say, okay, it's a problem in Ivory Coast. So they designed, and within 1 week they had a solution that was able to be shown. It was running live on the field. So it was quite interesting. Of course, the platform was also used for animation with academic partners. We have different research contracts on different topics with different universities. So UCAID is based in Senegal, UTM in Mauritius, USMT is also Senegal, UOB is Botswana, Lirema it's in Cameroon. And every time we organize a research contract on a dedicated topic, for example, UCAID it was on local location. UTM it was on connected objects, so based on Arduino, they developed an API that was connected on top of the project. ESMT it was on wall-off vocal recognition brick, etc., etc. Also something on open data with Cameroon. And at the end, we are, thanks to our gateways, we organize events in these different countries, so Benin, Burkina, Botswana, Cameroon, Ivory Coast, Madagascar, Mali, Mauritius, Senegal, and Togo. So even in countries where Orange is not present, so because during InnovAfrica, there are people coming from all West Africa, and not only from countries where Orange has some interest. So it's also for, as I have shown in the architecture the document, there is a repository code part and an execution environment part. So at the end, due to the by construction, the solution is fully open source, and the deal with the people that are using this platform is you can use it for free. Of course, there are quotas on the APIs, so you cannot start making really business because we will limit the number of of SMS per day or per month, etc. So there are a control and restriction quota on the different APIs, of course. But it's for free. The hosting is for free. Everything is for free. The only conditions people that are using the platform, they must release their code under free license. So they can select either PHP2 or GNU GPL, what they want. But the condition for deployment, the prerequisite for deployment is to select one free license. So at the end, by construction, we had more than 150 microservices that can travel all around Africa, because when you have a problem in Senegal, usually you have the same problem in Benin or very similar problems. So at the end, we have a forge of microservices. They are all under free license. They are covering different domains, from health to transport, agriculture, education, and even gaming. I think I missed some, but it was very large. Okay. So it's interesting because it allows some agility regarding the application. So the hackathons, we organize several things. So here it's not an exhaustive list of all the different events we were involved in. So it started in March 2011 in Mauritius, and sometimes it's organized by our local affiliate. Sometimes it's community event, so it's very different. Sometimes it's sort of innovation hub. For example, in Botswana, it was with the World Bank and Botswana Innovation Hub. So really, there are several possibilities. Sometimes it's only for students, sometimes it's for startups. But the common point of all these events, they were using the platform, the Emerginov platform, as a support for their hackathon. And we also made some presentation here for Linux Expo or things like that. And I will give just some illustration. Maybe one that can be detailed is the FP7 voice project. So it was a project with Web Foundation, with University of Amsterdam, and lots of partners coming from the south, from Africa. So ESMT, NGO in Sahel Eco, which is based in Mali, the Fondation Mérieux for the health application. So it was funded by the European Community, and during 3 years, we organized 2 field trials, one in Mali and one in Senegal. In Mali, it was on agriculture. You will see a video later on. And in Senegal, it was on health declaration. And for example, for this application, the government in Senegal, they have a correspondent in rural area. But before this system, when someone detected dangerous disease that could be very dangerous, it took about 1 week to collect all the information from all the country. Thanks to the application that has been done for this European project, it was within 1 day, because every day they send an SMS to the central system that was hosted on Emerginov, and they were able to have almost real-time detection of epidemia in Senegal. So here's a voice project. So I already said some words on the mHealth use case. For the agriculture, it was organized by Sahel Eco Web Foundation, and they designed 3 different projects. So I will show you the video here, because it has been done by our Dutch partner there.
The web connects us all. We use it to exchange information with friends, share knowledge with colleagues and business partners, improving our lives. This need for communication and knowledge sharing is global and not limited to the industrialized world. In sub-Saharan Africa, for example, climate change and soil degradation threaten the lives of rural families. Innovation and collaboration by
connection. Okay, anyway, you will have the link. The video is quite fine. There's times that is still the network. But
farmers can reverse these trends and increase food security. Sharing information amongst farmers across villages, regions and countries is the key to success. But how? Often there is a lack of computers. It internet connections and electricity. Moreover, the many spoken languages and low literacy restrict the use of the traditional written web. The wide availability of mobile phones in Africa, in combination with many local community radio stations, provide an excellent opportunity for information sharing. By combining voice and web technologies,
okay, it will be a little bit annoying.
we can improve information exchange in a way that fits the local context and oral traditions. One of the services we developed in Mali is Radio Marché, a sort of local eBay by voice. Radio Marché allows farmers to advertise their products on the radio. A contact person gathers product offerings of local farmers and enters these into the system using a web interface. Text-to-speech technologies convert this information into a voice message using locally recorded voices. The system currently supports the local languages French, Bambara, and Bomu. Radio hosts can retrieve the most recent market information using either a web browser or a simple mobile phone. By calling a local telephone number, the generated audio can be played live on the radio, reaching thousands of potential buyers in their preferred language. Farmer Zachary Diera was one of the beneficiaries of Radio Marché and was able to sell more honey thanks to the system. The second web system, Tabale, is named after a traditional Malian drum. Tabale is used by a local organization to connect to its contact persons in the field. It allows you to record a message in your own language once. And it will automatically call all contacts. The contacted persons can then use a simple voice menu to respond to the request or invitation by mobile phone. The Veroba Blonde system is named after the village square where everyone can have a voice and speak out. It uses voice technologies to allow citizen journalists to leave messages for the radios reporting from remote villages. Radio stations can access these voice microblogs through a web interface or through a mobile phone voice interface in their preferred language. Adama Tesakwe from Radio Sikidolo uses Veroba Blonde to report news from the surrounding villages. He collects announcements and reports on weddings, funerals, parties, accidents and lost cattle. Successful deployment in Mali, Veroba Blonde was used by Al Jazeera to monitor the recent Ghanaian and Kenyan presidential elections, also from remote villages. These are some examples what you can do with the web of voices, gathering, storing and sharing information in every corner of the planet, however remote.
Okay, so I think it's finished.
Economic and social change.
So okay, so sorry for the video, but all these trials were supported by Emerginov from 2011 to 2012 and even beyond, because all the different equipment remain. So it changed a little bit right now, but one of the conditions doing this European project was to be sustainable. So that's why also we decided to move to open source for the entire platform and to work on how to be able to install your own platform. So we'll come back later on this aspect, but it was very important for that. But as you can see, there is also a video on the ML's trial. It was quite interesting, and that's why the title of the conference was African Adventure, because as you can guess on the picture, it's always an adventure to achieve this kind of things. So the second example from the different hackathons were the Emagri in Botswana. So in the first previous example, I show a European project. Here it was a demand coming from Botswana Innovation Hub, that is an organization with different sub-organizations, including Orange, and it was really dedicated to startup. So it was only for professional and on agriculture. I don't know if you already have been to Botswana. Botswana, it's a quite rich country in Africa, and they are very fond of cattling and agriculture. So that was not surprising that their demand was dealing with that. So they had 1 week to design and code an application, so a standard hackathon. Of course, it's not imposed to use Emerginov all the time, but for all the backend system, if you want to have routing number, SMS, everything running together, it always takes time. So on the 10 candidates or 15 candidates, I think, I put it afterwards. Yeah, 10 projects were realized within 1 week on Emerginov, and there were 15 or 20 candidates, I think. So most of them were dealing with marketplaces. There were also information centers and animal medication tracking systems. So several ones, but it was done in 1 week, and for this Botswana Innovation Hub. Next example is an example of the use of a platform by our affiliate in Senegal, so Sonatel. And Sonatel, they wanted to involve the local universities. So there are 6 big universities, public universities in Senegal, in Dakar, in Ziguinchor, in Saint-Louis. And they wanted to bridge, reconnect the telecom operator with the students, and they organize a friendly competition. Each university has to select one project that represents the university, their university, and at the end they organized. The final was in Dakar, and there were a lot of people attending this final. I mean, more than 500 people were in the amphitheater, so they are very enthusiastic. And the ceremony was managed by a startup incubator called CETIC in Dakar. It has very good visibility, so there are some ministers there, and there are the CDO of Sonatel. So the winner was the Emagri project by Kies University. And there are 5 other projects. One was about flat renting, digital library for Africa, so it was also interesting and quite innovative. And there are different MLs projects. But here we can see that Orange in Africa is able to attract more than 500 developers in one place just for application development. And the feedback from the different participants was very good. I mean, usually we have an image that is, we are very powerful in Africa. If you arrive in Senegal, you will see Orange everywhere. That's very powerful. And usually the students think that we are a bit disconnected from the real life when we are the operator, because we are earning a lot of money and etc. So this kind of ceremony, because there were quite good prices, there were training in Sonatel, there were also lots of goodies and things like that, and money prices. So it was really well appreciated, and I think the organization that was done by our affiliate only. We were just here at the beginning to help them to install platform. Then, as I mentioned, they created teams that travel all around the country, and they organize their own hackathon without us. So it was totally autonomous without our needs, so it was perfect. And at the end, the application were quite interesting. And as it was managed by a startup incubator, there were also some business involvement that were interesting for the global ecosystem in Senegal. And the last one, I already mentioned it before. It's in Africa, so it's this forum for innovation in West Africa. So here are quite a lot of people. I mean, it's organized by Imagination for People. Last year there were more than 350 participants, 294, coming from 19 countries. So, and most of them, of course, from Africa. There were also people from France, so that's why we have this number. But and there are more than 50 new projects created during the forum. So on mobile side, there were only 5 or 10. But globally, there are lots of projects, there are a lot of discussions, and lots of cross-connection discussions with people coming from OpenStreetMap, the Fab Lab, the Jerry Clan, and the MOOC. And at the moment, as you know, there is a big crisis regarding Ebola, for example. And the young people that are participating to that in OpenStreetMap with the ML's department, they started really at the beginning of the crisis something called Map for Ebola, when they use OpenStreetMap just to show where were the infected area in the different countries in West Africa. So it was self-organized by OpenStreetMap communities, but we have some connections thanks to them thanks to the InnovAfrica with them. We have also connection with Fab Lab. I mentioned some project dealing with connected objects. So it's very basic, based on Arduino, but there are some projects on on Internet of Things. If you imagine, for example, it was in Senegal, they have some solar panel, but all the maintenance is done in Dakar. And usually when they had a problem, it was, just as they have to call and people can call, but there was no real maintenance. It was not working, it was not working. It was the end of the use of the panel. Thanks to a connected object, we're able to detect and to send directly SMS to the maintenance, okay, it's not working anymore. Then they have a better view on the system. And at the moment, my colleagues are working on the health case for also basic remote diagnostic so that's also something that use Emerginov as a backend. And there was a specific development called Sonsonet on it, and it was presented in InnovAfrica last year. So okay, so that was the hackathons part. So I will not multiply the examples, but as you can see, since 3 years we were quite busy with different actions we had on the field, and as a support, because sometimes everything was totally managed by our local colleague. Now I will speak to the cloud. So because it's the topic today, we are in OpenStack Summit or in OW2con'. So since the beginning, and thanks to the European project, the driver #1 to be published under free license was that we want to be sustainable. I mean, with our partner, including our African partner, we say, okay, we cannot guarantee that Orange will spend money in doing this kind of project for 10 years. It's impossible. We are working in the research areas, so it would be difficult to do it. But we want to be sure that if we stop, you are able to run the same system, the same application, and you will not have to pay lots of license fees because there are some solution inside that requires some licenses. So we want it to be open source to be sustainable, to be also a little bit independent from us, and to have more visibility. And also one argument for that was to share the same tooling. The students are able to, they know quite well all the different open source solutions, but they didn't have all the connection with the telecommunication operator. But we want to have the same toolbox. So using the same solutions, same open source components is very helpful to share and to speed up the understanding of the platform. So at the beginning, the installation was a wiki page, and here you can see, for example, we have to explain how to install a Xen Center, how to create all the network, and then We have the different nodes. So a basic, the first version of the solution, there were 7 virtual machines on a Xen cluster. So everything has to be done manually. So it was more than a week to complete the installation. And there were quite a lot of risk of lots of human errors, of course. So it was in 2010. Even if most of the work was already automated, in the wiki page you can see install an Apache server, configure this way. So we detailed the installation. It was, the page were not that big, but it takes quite a long time. It was impossible to maintain. As soon as there was some new patch, everything was installed manually. So at the end, it was very difficult to maintain, especially in this cloud environment. And moreover, we face also problems due to poor wild shortcuts. Even in a data center, in our affiliate, there are sometimes very poor cuts that were not planned. It should not happen, but it happened. And then for virtualization, it was a bit difficult to reinstantiate everything, and it was quite complex. So we introduced the use of Puppet in order to simplify the installation. You can see that the new procedure to install, so there is only one thing missing, is here you have to edit a configuration file that is approximately 20 or 30 lines, including the different IPs, the domain name of the system, the mailing list of the administrator, for the mailing, the mail of the administrator. But it's quite simple. But if you do all this operation, you've got a single machine with all Emerginov running on it. If you want to have a multi-machine, we use also Puppet. But here we have to make 3 commands on each node. You have the complete installation. But from 1 week, now it's a couple of hours, thanks to Puppet. There are, of course, less error. Yeah, I say only one configuration file to edit. Otherwise, it's only questions. So it was a good step. So I put this sentence because it's a bit silly, but when we were in Senegal 2 years ago, we explained how to install a solution, but the conference was hosted in a new building where there was no network, and we heard it only a few hours before we started. And as we need to upgrade some packages and things like that, we went to the Sonatel. Then we were directly behind the international router. We download all the repository from Ubuntu. We put them on our drive. We, of course, download our own repository. And then we made a local internet in the room where we organize this training. But anyway, it was just to mention that it was possible to make the training even without network. And sometimes it happens in Africa. You have to do cloud without network, which is not always easy. But infrastructure is still complex, especially for small entities. During the trial in Mali, we have a partner. It was NGO. The NGO is not, there's no IT expert, so they have some PCs around, but the installation, even with Puppet, remain complex for them. For academic entities, it really depends on the size of the university. Big university, usually they have an IT department. And for startup, sometimes it may be difficult depending on the domain they are working on. So, and of course, the network connectivity still takes time. Whatever you can do, whatever system you will use in order to simplify the installation, to install it, at the end, you are the last mile from the telecom world, and it takes time. It takes really time. And in Africa, it can take quite a lot of time. So you need one person who manages the IP plan, one for the firewall, one for the SMSA, one for the T2. So there are some times that cannot be compressed, even if we have the best tool in the world. But now the last thing we did, we moved to OpenStack. Well, we still use Puppet, of course, but we created simply images in OpenStack. So we have our own OpenStack, and here it's our platform in Lannion, and we provide an Emerginov on demand, which is not very difficult because as everything was already puppetized, we can create an image and then just run a script to reaffect the right domain from the user, and we can provide an Emerginov in a single image on demand. We are also able to provide a telco-grade solution through OpenStack. So we have an Emerginov on demand through this system, and now it's from some hours to some minutes or some seconds because for the smallest solution, and some configuration adaptation. Theoretically, it's possible to scale out in because this architecture is multi-VM. So, for example, the contention points can be the dev, the one particular virtual machine. So we will be able to scale it. The same for the proxy VMs that can be also extended. And it's then quite easy to set up for special events. So for a conference, hackathons, you can do it very quickly. And then you have a solution up and running. But regarding the telecom side, you have still the network connectivity, because providing Emerginov without the gateways, it's interesting because you have all these vocal on media server, so it can be interested anyway. You can use a voice over IP client, but at the end, if you want to really use it on a mobile, you need the gateway, and the gateway takes time anyway, and there's stuff you cannot virtualize. And of course, it does not solve the power issues, unfortunately, and that's really a big issue in Africa. So the feedback of our OpenStackization of Emerginov. So it was a logic evolution at the end, even if we were very happy with Xen and we moved to KVM, but anyway, we face minor network issues, some conflicts when we install with we have our own internal DNS, so there are some conflict, but it was more, we have to learn about OpenStack when we started. We have still to perform tests. The platform is really for innovation, it was not planned for production. So for the moment, we know that there is no problem of contention because it's always for hackathon and things like that. So no problem. But the main contention is on the gateway side. So we have 30 channels for the vocal part. Of course, on the IT side, it's nothing. So there's no problem. We are still to improve our gateway installation. Even the gateway itself is also managed by Puppet, so it's quite easy to do it, but as it's in a remote part, we have to set up a VPN over internet to connect all the different gateways. And it's compact solution, so at the moment we are yesterday during a presentation done by Canonical, they show a demo that was not very far from what we can do basically with the solution, but they use 25 VM to make a vocal services because everything is split into one VM for one function. Here, everything can be in only one VM, so of course we can split it in several, but it's not as split, and the idea was really to have something compact. Okay, and my conclusion. So the introduction of Puppet for Emerginov was great because it saved quite a lot of time, and so we have to invest some time in order to manage it, but at the end we are quite happy because even for the maintenance it's quite easy to have all the platform at the same stage. So OpenStackization was cool also to have this image. So for Africa and Togo, we are able to create such image for our colleagues. The community is also exciting. I mean, the people we met there were very, very enthusiastic, very interested. They are very open source aware, and they can do lots of things. So it's very exciting to work with them, and they know why they are working on this kind of topics. So African cloud success stories still to be written. There are some initiatives at the moment to create data center in Africa. Orange is working on that, and our competitor also, Google, is making lots of work, especially on the access part. But probably in the decades to come, it will be very interesting to see, and the market is great. So our PaaS could contribute. It's a small project. I mean, it's not a big project, but I think through the video and the different hackathons we already done, you can see that we already achieved some stuff. And our African adventure still continue. Okay, so that's all for me.